So I'm Rob Lawrence with the Rob Lawrence team. We have a live and flip course, which you'll get access to at the end of this webinar, which is 10 videos, about 5 minutes each. It's going to recap a lot of what you're going to learn here. There's obviously going to be other information there as well. So that's free. And would love to have you guys give me feedback on that as well. Hopefully it's helpful to you. So I want to tell you guys a story of Tim and Meg. And Tim is a guy I used to wrestle with when I was in middle school. I'm 40 years old now. Hadn't really talked to him in like 20 something years, but he saw what I was doing on Facebook, said, "Hey, we want to grow our family. We want to move out of this townhouse and buy a bigger house." And I said, "Awesome." I was like, "Have you guys thought about doing a live and flip?" And they said, "What is that?" And I said, "Guys, let me show you the way and let's make a plan." So they agreed, and they sort of trusted me in the process. And this house you can see pictures of is what they ended up with. So let's talk a little bit about their numbers. This house was up for 850,000. We offered 835,000. It had been on market for 2 days. And then we ended up closing at 775,000 after negotiating an additional $60,000 off on inspection. It needed 150K to 200K in renovations. Needed the stucco done, some different things, some windows, floor refinishing, but overall good house, and it had a pool. So the projected ARV, what I would call after renovation value of this house, was 1.15 to 2.25 million. So looking at our numbers here, they created 175K to 300K in equity by doing this live in flip. Now they can just live there, and they bought a house for a lot less than they would have been able to afford otherwise. They can tap this equity and then go on to do other things in their life, which I'll get into more. But that's Tim and Meg. They just closed on this one at the end of January. So this is just some receipts to show you guys that my numbers are real. This is their neighborhood. So you can see they purchased this for 775 on 131.25, and they've got a 4.2, and then they've got a 5 for 1.2 in their neighborhood. So, I'm not pulling these numbers out of thin air. This is based on the data, looking at what's happening in their neighborhood and finding a great deal. You can look it up. It's 1104 General Lafayette in Westchester. So this is real. So the goal of this presentation is open your mind to this concept and to hopefully get you into action. And think about, how do you create the house you want at the price you want, instead of "I can't afford it" or "what's affordable housing for me." This is more about, and other people in your life too, maybe your kids, maybe a friend, whoever that is, you could share this with them. But this is like super valuable because, if you can create easily like 50 to 150K in equity, that can be life changing for a lot of people and help them get a great start in life, or help them buy that beach house that they're looking for. So who am I? I have a team of 6 here in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We covered Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery County, and Newcastle County, Delaware. So that's basically like sort of to the west of Philadelphia. We've done over $100 million in transactions, and we're agents, but we also invest in real estate. So I'm a real estate investor. I'm working on a project right now, and we help a lot of real estate investors. And our team is primarily focused on helping people make money in real estate, which does set us apart from a lot of other realtors. I know it can feel sometimes like realtors are just out to make a commission, but I'm always saying, hey, how do I make people 5 to 10 times what they're paying me? So what is a live and flip? Any questions so far from anybody, Michael?
No, no. No. Everyone's following along, it seems.
All right, awesome. Um, so what is a live and flip? You're buying a house, you're fixing it up, and you got to create some equity above what you paid from the property and renovations. That's simple, right? 1 plus 1 should be 3, or 2 plus 1 should be 5. Whatever simple math you got there, that's the basic idea. We don't want to break even. We don't want to lose money. We want to make money. A house hack is a way that maybe someone who's younger or maybe doesn't have the resources to pay for the whole house could help. So basically, it's like you can get a multi-unit, but multis around where I live at least are somewhat hard to get. There's just not a lot of them. They're not always in the areas, but you can also just get a single and get roommates. So it's a fancy word for getting roommates and having other people pay for your property. Um, and maybe they're renting a room for 800 each, and you got two people renting. That's paying 1,600 towards your mortgage. And it can create long-term wealth if you're holding that. Maybe you eventually move out into your next property. Like I said, it can be combined with the live and flip. I think that can be a great strategy. It just depends on your life situation if a house hack is right to incorporate with a live and flip. But that's all dependent on your life. So what are the live and flip pros and cons? Because I think there's a lot of pros, so I'm going to start with that. So pros, tax benefits. So if you, as a single person or as a married couple, buy a house and you live in it for 2 years and you sell it, you get 250 to 500K in gains. Yeah, for single 250, if you're married, 500 in gains, tax free. So, hey, if you make $500,000 tax free, like what do you have to make before taxes? 750,000. That's, obviously a lot of years of work for somebody. So, understanding this strategy can be life-changing and extremely powerful to your financial picture. And you can give Camaplan more money to invest too. So the property is going to appreciate over the 2 years. I mean, you're just getting on the river of inflation that is real estate. When you do a live and flip, you have a flexible renovation timeline. So, like, if you're flipping a house, it's like, man, we got to turn this thing in 6 weeks. We got to have our contractors line up, the money, blah, 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 and you're go, go, go. Live and flip, you're living there. So, if you got 3 bathrooms and one of them's not working right now because you're renovating it, not the end of the world. Or, you're renovating a room or painting a room. So you can have that flexibility. And this is like where you put the training wheels on for real estate investing. There's low or no holding costs because you're living there, and you would be paying rent anyway or paying a mortgage anyway. And you might have, again, doing a house hack where other people are helping to pay some of the costs of living there. So it's a great way to learn. It's just like the easy button. Cons, it's hard work. This is not, for people that are lazy and want a passive investment. This is active, somebody who's go-getter, go after it. Hey, I'm willing to learn how to lay floor on YouTube, whatever it is. You got to buy it right. So you can do this wrong. The first time I did it, I did do it wrong and I lost in Jersey. I think I bought something for like 229, ended up selling it 7 years later for 225 after putting $40,000 of work and sweat labor into this house. And I just didn't understand the math, which is what I'm going to teach you guys today and how important that math is. And I had another person, they thought they were going to do a live and flip. They bought with another realtor. They paid 405. The house was really worth like 330 based on current condition and the after renovation value. That person ended up losing about $60,000 because they just got in over their head and had to bail. So this can be, disclaimer. This is not just, work with anybody and, guess at it. You can lose money. So you got to buy right. You need access to capital. So you need really your down payment and your renovation costs, and you got to figure out how you're going to get that. You might be living in construction zone, but that's almost part of home ownership. So that's important to keep in mind. But you can potentially renovate the house and then move into it. You don't have to live in the construction. That's why I put maybe. So how to get prepared? You got to build your real estate team. So if you're not in my area, it's good if you can find investor focused real estate agents and investor focused financing people like mortgage or I have one guy who can get conventional loans through on rougher properties than normal. That's been really key for my clients. So like how you're financing it, maybe again, contractors and things like that, title, all that stuff. So building a real estate team, getting the right person to help you and guide you through this process is super huge. Do we got a question?
Yeah, we just did actually get a question. And it was, can you do this with self-directed IRA funds? Which I do know a little bit about if you'd like me to take that.
Yeah, why don't you answer that question?
Yeah, so this exactly, to my knowledge, you can't do with your self-directed IRA funds, and the reasoning is because essentially there's when you're when you're paying for a property with a self-directed IRA, there are certain restrictions that basically prevent you from living in that property or doing your own work on that property, as well as having certain family members live in that property. I don't know the exact ones, but it's something like, your brother or sister can't, but maybe your uncle can. And don't quote me on that, but it's something
Could
around.
your child?
I don't actually know off the top of my head. But regardless, you are able to do this to a certain degree, not if you're not living in it, but if you're renting it out to, close friends and family. Or no, sorry, not close family, but like close friends or if you're renting it out in general. So there are definitely some stipulations that prevent this from happening when you're using your self-directed IRA funds. But at the very least, it's still very educational and it can give you funds to put in your self-directed IRA if you're doing it with other funds.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
I would say one of the big things is access to the debt market. So good credit score is important. Um, your income requirements, you know, are you making money? Are you going to qualify for a loan, or is someone going to be able to co-sign who's qualified? And the down payment and renovation costs. So you got to figure out, okay, like I'm buying something, I'm gonna go 5% down plus closing costs. So you need like 9% of the purchase price. And then how am I going to fund the renovation? So, I typically recommend that people have access to maybe like 50 to $100,000 in cash for something like this. But again, it could be a gift from a parent, could be, someone partnering with you. I was actually just talking to a guy down the hall and he was like, yeah, my dad wants to do an investment. And I was like, well, why don't you guys do like a live and flip together and you could live there and you're paying rent anyway. So there's a lot of ways you can look at it. But one of the main goals of this is actually to just create money and not burn your cash. Because the goal is to get that money back out once it's in quickly. A good network of contractors is important. A local real estate investor meetup is a great place to meet people that know contractors. Like I was just running mine last night. I run one once a month, and there was people there that are specific to investors, and like the prices that I get paint done for, or flooring done for, or other things done for is like not retail, and that's huge. So a great place to meet contractors is going to real estate investor meetups and meeting other real estate investors and asking them who they use. And sometimes there's actual contractors even at the investor meetups, like my flooring guy was yesterday. But I like refloored a whole house, demoed it out, and put quarter round in. It was probably like 2,000 square feet for like 7 grand on this one I'm doing right now. It's making me click a bunch of times. Oh. So this is my house. I'm getting real personal with you guys, sharing, exactly what I've been doing. And I bought this house in 2020 for 397,500, and I had closing costs of 16,000. I rehabbed it for 85,000 over time. First I did like 40 and then I did like another 40 in the basement a couple years later. My current after renovation value is 825,000 for a profit of 326,500 so far. Yes, COVID helps with depreciation and all that other stuff, but the main thing was like I put 40 in and then 6 months later I appraised at 540 and then used that to buy a beach house, which I'll talk about in a minute. So this is what it looked like before. It wasn't this virtual staging. And here's a video showing the house. So this shows the renovation process, about 60 seconds here. Old outdated kitchen. These are like typical grandma houses, I call them. And we ripped out a closet. We put a bathroom in there. We opened up the doorway. That's me. Smashing stuff. You don't have any anger issues when you're done with one of these. I re-drywalled everything, took out all the walls, and opened the kitchen way up. So you'll see that in a second here. So this is the bathroom that we put in the closet. Did luxury vinyl plank through the whole house, and this is the new kitchen.
Wow, the world of a difference.
Yeah. You know, you can create your dream home, design the kitchen how you want. There's a lot of positives to this in terms of like, um, you know, what you can do. So then I told you I refinanced. Well, this is what we ended up buying with the money that we created from this house, which is my wife wanted to be in Clearwater Beach. So now we have a spot in Clearwater Beach. We use that HELOC, home equity line of credit, to use as down payment to buy an Airbnb in Florida, which we still own to this day. And I was actually going to Florida on Friday to see if maybe we might change to a different place. But yeah, we ended up buying this house. I won't bore you with the whole video, but um, you know, this can really open up a lot of your dreams. Maybe you've dreamed of having a beach house. Maybe you've dreamed of having a hunting camp. Maybe you've dreamed of, I don't know what. But, you know, real estate investing is a vehicle that can really help you live the life you want. And I always encourage people to think about, you know, how can I afford something? Not I can't afford it or that kind of thing. So here's a another client turned teammates live in flip. This was in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, purchased for 320 on market. So he bought it for 320, closing costs are 10, had a little bit of holding costs while he renovated it. He rehabbed it for 45,000. He did do a lot of work himself. So his total cost for 383,400. And then it appraised 6 months later at 522. I would estimate it's probably worth at least 550 to 575 now. But his initial profit was 138,000. And we got some before and after pictures. It's making me click a bunch of times. There we go.
Wow.
So that was the old kitchen. Ugly. New kitchen. Pretty. Bathroom. He bumped this out and created more space. Old bedroom, new bedroom. So let's talk about the math. So flipping house can be lucrative, but the math behind it is super important. So we help people calculate an offer price. We'll show you that, estimate renovation costs, and determine your return. So here's an offer price. So let's just say you see a house on the market and you go like, well, what should I be offering on this house? I can see that done using the comparable properties in the neighborhood, it's going to be worth 600,000. My renovation costs I've projected at 70,000 and I want to make 85,000. Let's just say that's where I'm happy. So your offer price is 600 minus 70 minus 85. So you should be offering around 445,000 on that property. So you got your what you wanted to get it to, how much it's going to cost to renovate, and what your desired profit is. Okay, so that means you probably can take all the, you know, a lot of your cash back out of the deal and be able to go do something else if you offered 445. If you can get it for better, great. But this at least gives you some guidelines so that you can determine the value of a property rather than someone else telling you what it's worth. So how do we determine the ARV? So like if you're not a realtor and you don't have access to the MLS, like your realtor should be able to do this for you. But basically you can go on realtor.com and go on just sold houses and then you start putting in the criteria that match the house that you're buying, right? So it's a 4 bedroom. I put in 1 to 5 bathrooms. I got like the square footage range in there, that it's a detached house, same school district. And then I can see, hey, what's stuff selling for? You know, in that's done. And I can look at the pictures and I can see the level of renovation. I can sort by the highest price, see which, you know, where was the top of the market, where was the bottom. And that's going to give you an idea of your ARV or after renovation value. So how are you going to finance this? The great thing about a live-in flip is over a regular investment is you're going to need a lot less cash out of pocket. Because if you're buying like a rental property, you usually got to come 20 to 25, sometimes 30% down payment out of pocket plus closing costs plus your refinance, plus your renovation costs. So when you're buying a personal residence, the government likes that, and so they incentivize that with lower interest rates and lower down payments. So you can go FHA, though FHA's got a lot of it got an appraisal inspection, which makes it undesirable to sellers who have rough houses. So a lot of times, if you got a really, really rough house, you're gonna have to go hard money, which is what it's called, like private money, which is what flippers use. If it's like okay, not terrible, maybe cosmetic, conventional loan is usually the way to go, and that's usually where I try to push. There might be a line of credit that you have on another house that might help you with this house. A cash out refinance on another property. You could use a VA or a USDA loan. So if you're a veteran, or you live in a rural area, the USDA comes into play. And friends and family, obviously, like parents help kids buy houses all the time. But I think it's really interesting, as a parent, let's say you're trying to help your child buy a house, if you can make that a great investment and maybe even cash your money back out at the end of the day, or just create more wealth for your child, basically multiply your gift through teaching in this process. And a lot of people, when they're scraping, getting started, they get a Home Depot credit card, they get other credit cards. I mean, it's not my ideal, but people do it. So making a renovation plan, you're going to assess the property and set goals. Now, when you're new to this, you might go, I don't know how anything costs. Well, you can learn that stuff, and it's actually like relatively easy. Like you can Google on an AI, and be like, how much is it to replace a toilet? Or how much is a vanity? How much does a flooring cost? You can get quotes, and understand your budget. So I just did a project. I put the budget at like 30. We're probably going to come in at like 33. And for that, I'm doing paint, new floors, replacing the toilets and vanities, doing a new shower. I fixed the deck. I'm putting a new driveway in, short driveway, and do some landscaping. So, again, if you're really thrifty and savvy, you can really do a lot for a lower budget. So you can ask for contractor recs. Like I said, I think again, real estate investor meetups are great places to meet contractors that understand cost is of the essence. And I would always say pull your permits. You can pull permits as a homeowner, and sometimes if you're going to hire a contractor, they're going to want to see their insurance and things like that. But if you go to sell it and you didn't pull in permits, and you're like, yeah, I did the work myself, it's like the next buyer is going to be a little weary about what's in the walls. Plus, it's safety, especially electrical. And yeah, you probably want to design for a broad appeal, more neutral colors, the flip look. Creating a project timeline is important, understanding how long is this going to take you and what are the order of operations. Like, can I paint before I put floor in? I think the answer is yes. You could put the floor in first, you can put the paint in, but you can get a lot done fast. And once you get good at this, especially. So, like this house I'm renovating, and I told you all the things I was doing, probably going to take about 6 weeks. Here's an example of a budget that I did on one of my houses, and just showing like, okay, like here's my projected cost, the things I need to do, what did it actually come in at? So I'm sort of tracking, what I did. Just a simple spreadsheet. You can make your own. I don't have one for sale or anything, but it's just very basic. Like I need to get a shed demoed out, for example, right here. Okay, I think it's going to cost $500. Oh, it only costs 350 to get that demoed out. Um, you know, this is what I had budgeted for this. I went way over budget on this project, which was flipping a house in Westchester. But anyway, you get the idea. Just simple spreadsheet, lay it out, take it out of your head, put it on paper. Sometimes you'll be surprised how high the numbers get. So exit strategy. So ideally, you want to hold this property for 2 years. You can hold it forever. And I do know people that sell one every 2 years, and hey, they're making that 250 to 500 profit tax free. I mean, barely have to work if you do something like that. You could keep it as a long-term rental. I personally don't like doing that because you've got that tax advantage from the live and flip. If it turns into a rental, then, over a period of time, you're going to then be subject to capital gains. So you're kind of taking it out of your tax shelter. But a lot of people do turn their personal residence into a rental and they will keep it that way. Not my personal preference. You can access the equity as a home equity line of credit, HELOC. I love HELOCs. I got three of them. And that you can do fast. So you could probably do that within once you basically have it renovated, you can get it reappraised and they'll say, okay, the value now is 600 from your 400 purchase, and we're going to give you X number of dollars. And I'll show you that calculation. So HELOC is a home equity line of credit, lets homeowners borrow against their home's equity. There's a difference between the market's value and your remaining mortgage balance. It's a revolving credit line like a credit card. So if you're not using it, it doesn't cost you anything. Costs probably like a couple $100 to set up. Sometimes they're free to set up, and it's just sitting there like a big giant bank account that you can choose to access if you need to, but you don't have to. That's what I really like about them. They are variable rate on the interest rate, so that's one negative. So getting a HELOC, so let's say you purchased a house 400K, 5% down. So your loan amount was 380 and your after renovation value was 550. Your loan to value that the HELOC company is going to give you is 90%. So they're going to say, hey, your house is now worth 550 times 90%, and then we're going to subtract the loan. That's going to be your HELOC amount. So for in this example, you could borrow $115,000 as a line or potentially a home equity loan if you chose. Or you could refinance. And you can go buy a Maserati. Does that sound good to you, Michael?
It sounds great.
Yeah, chicks dig them. All right. So, main thing from this presentation I want you guys to take away is, get into action. Like none of this happens without taking action. Um, you know, the truth is the education is relatively simple until you actually go to do it, and then you learn a lot more. That's where the real education happens in life, right? Is when we go to do something. So these deals happen every day. So this is what I do. I just search average, below average, or major rehab needed in my MLS search, and it pulls properties that people are advertising need to be renovated. I did this today, and then I actually just sent one of my colleagues a live and flip in Downingtown, is a town around here. So here's an example of that list that came up when I just did that today of all the properties that are average, below average, or major renovation condition in just my county here. So people are saying that they're coming up. You can go and bid on them. You don't need to find off-market deals, although you can. But I would say live and flip deals happen all the time because there's just elderly people don't take care of the house, or they take care of it, but they don't update it. Um, some people do get in distress situations from whatever problems they have. And a lot of times they just want to take their house to market. But, you know, a live-in flipper has an advantage over an investor because of their financing and their holding costs and a lot of other things. So the live-in flipper has a big advantage, and those deals are sitting there on the market happening all the time. And one of the reasons I'm getting this word out is because, like, man, these are easy deals for me to do and find and help people make 50 to 150,000, like relatively easily. And that's me. So you can see my QR code for the course here. So if you scan this, that'll take you right to the course. You can reach out to me in my email, my cell phone, check out our website. Yeah. Does anybody have questions or anything they want to ask?
I will give them a couple minutes to get their questions in. I can expand a little bit on what we were talking about before if you'd like me to. Also, I did
Yeah.
go and find the answer. I am just going to steal the screen for 1 second,
Yeah, go ahead.
and then I will give it back to you. But these are just this is some more detailed information on basically what is considered a prohibited transaction with qualified persons and someone's SDIRA, selling, exchanging, or leasing a property to them, lending money or extending credit to them, and furnishing goods, facilities, or services. And more specifically, this is the chart that I was looking for, which is a description of who those disqualified persons are. So anyone in your lineal family is disqualified. So your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren, or their spouses, as well as your own spouse. However, any of your aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews are all completely fair game. So for those, you could, if you bought a house with your SDIRA, you could rent it out to your brother or your sister. And if you were interested in applying the live-in flip, possibly with a brother or sister being the one that's actually living in and flipping, we can definitely help you make sure that you've got all your T's crossed and your I's dotted in terms of following what the IRS, puts forward in terms of rules. But I did want to share that to hopefully give a more straightforward answer on that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's nice to have a rich uncle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there because someone asked and something to keep in mind for sure. Um,
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
So I do have one question for you as well. If someone is interested, but maybe they're not sure how well that this fits, how well this process might fit what they're looking to do, what's the easiest way to, I guess, reach out to you? But are you able to help them answer that question and help them figure out like, oh, this is a fit for you or this isn't a fit for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they can definitely reach out to me and we can discuss their overall situation. And, sometimes I work with a lot of clients, we're going to probably do like 100 deals this year, right? So I look at it as like, if you come to me and say, like, I want to buy a house, and I say, well, let's consider a live and flip. And then they find something else that's done and they don't need to flip it and they're just happy with that, then like, hey, we're going to buy it, right?
Yeah,
And it's really like a journey and a process for everyone in self-discovery, I think, where they go, this feels really bad to me, or this doesn't feel right, or hey, wow, I'm really excited about getting to lay the floor and turn this place into my dream kitchen. So I really like to um, let people go on their own journey in the process and not force any one thing upon them, but have that open as an option to them and allow them to, hey, maybe we tour some beat up houses, maybe we tour some houses that aren't so beat up, and then see, what's feeling right for them.
absolutely. And we did have another question come in. Two more questions come in. First, do you have contractors that can evaluate repairs costs before submitting an offer?
Uh, yeah, I think that's definitely possible. As an agent, I usually will be able to do that. Like if you get a good investor agent who has experience renovating, your agent should be able to give you like, yo, that kitchen's going to be 25,000. This floor is going to be $5 a square foot. We got 1,000 square feet. So 5,000 to replace this floor. So like you should be able to get at least some budget numbers together if you're working with an agent who has knowledge, which is important. You gotta have knowledge. But
Absolutely.
But that's to get like a rough estimate, and then you just put a contingency on top of that. So like, let's say I'm budgeting, okay, like I can see 60 grand and stuff. There's definitely going to be like 12 grand and stuff I didn't see. So like, for example, with this house in Downingtown, I wrote down like, okay, I can easily see 25 here. Let me give another 5K on my contingency. I actually ended up at 33, but that's pretty on, like within 10%. So, you can bring in the one thing that I would say the downside to bringing through contractors or trying to bring through contractors is like, you've got the buyer schedule, the realtor schedule, and the contractor schedule. Does the contractor want money to go and do that? Do they, how fast are they on getting a quote back? Um, you know, it just creates challenge, and especially in a market that can move really fast, especially when a property is underpriced and you're just trying to slam an offer at it. So my recommendation is, get educated a little bit yourself and then also have a realtor that can give you like, hey, bro, I think this is 80K. Here's why. Bomb, 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 bomb. And they're doing that when they walk through. That's the ideal situation. Rather now, of course, and again, you can get three different contractors coming through a property and they'll tell you like, oh, this is 150,000. This is 250. And I'm like, this is 75, bro. Like, and they might be inflating their costs.
Yeah.
So I had that happen with the guy who flipped one in Manayunk or Roxborough, like in Philly. And like some contractor, I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, dude, this is like 100K. Some contractor came through and told him 250, and he was about to back out of the deal. And I was like, yo, if you back out of this deal, I'm buying this house because this thing's going to make you 150 grand, like easy. And I think he ended up making more than that because of just how it all went. But he ended up going through with it. But yeah, so you have to just, I think it's really important to choose the right real estate agent because again, that's the person who's going to be there with you on every showing, and it's a lot more convenient.
Absolutely. And another question from Brian. Do you have a system for the Airbnb purchasing like you did with your place in Clearwater? Then he goes on to mention that Connor is my son that you referenced earlier.
Oh,
So,
yes, Connor. Yeah, he's down the hall from me here. Great guy. Um, so with Airbnb purchasing, um, which also has a really interesting tax advantage to it, which I've been learning about. You're going to want to understand why are you doing it, right? Number one, like, are you trying to create an Airbnb empire, or are you just looking to subsidize costs a uh, on a vacation house, which is what I did, right? I like going to Clearwater, so I want to be able to use it and have other people pay for most of it or all of it. Um, so let's go get a free vacation, basically. So you have to understand that, and then the Airbnb market is rather saturated in a lot of places right now. So there's a lot of oversupply with Airbnb. But like I'm looking at this one down in Florida in Sanibel Island, and I'm going, okay, like I don't need to be like a millionaire off of it. I just need to like be able to make some money so that it offsets my mortgage. And when I look at that, the first thing I want to know is what are the rules where I'm buying, right? Am I in an HOA? Is the HOA allowing for short-term rentals? They're not always doing that. The county might have rules. Like in Pinellas County, where my Clearwater Beach place is, I got a 30-day minimum, and my HOA has a 30-day minimum, and they run background checks on every single renter. So it's like, God, it's challenges. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm talking to the realtor in Sanibel. I'm like, what are the rules? She's like, well, the county has a 7-day, but nobody follows it. They don't enforce it. If you're not in HOA, no one cares. So you got to watch out with like HOAs plus the rules of that county or state. But a lot of times it seems like county. So one of the big things is understanding the rules, going on Airbnb, how many properties are available right now to rent? What are they charging? Like, wow, there's tons of vacancy here. Like it's oversupplied, or man, I can't get an Airbnb here. It's undersupplied. And if that's the case, a lot of times it's because of the rules. So there was a big Airbnb boom during COVID because nobody wanted to stay in a hotel. Everybody wanted to stay in Airbnb, right? Because you didn't have to interact with anyone. And now a lot of people do rather prefer a hotel. So sort of like this boom bust that's happening right now, and it can be relatively hard to get rented.
and then the last question that I see is, can you do a HELOC, HELOC, I don't know how to,
That's right.
HELOC, yeah,
Yeah.
on an SDIRA owned property? I do not know the answer to that question. I'm not sure if you do.
Well, I know that you can get one on a rental property because I have two of them on rental properties. However, it's difficult to find banks willing to do it, but S&T Bank here does it, and I think so does WSFS. Which
Oh,
was
I know which one you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They do it. So it is a lot of banks will only do HELOCs on a personal residence, which again is a reason that live and flips are have an advantage. But and they're gonna do 80% loan to value a lot of times. I just don't know how they would treat it in an IRA. I guess they're gonna look at the income from the rental probably and
Yeah.
determine like your ability to repay.
Yeah, and
But
if
I'm
it
not
is
sure.
primarily on personal properties, I say it's probably rare that they would do it for an SDIRA since it can't really be a personal property that you're living in. However, if you have something
Yeah.
specific in mind, feel free to give us a call. There are people here that are much more intelligent than me and much more knowledgeable than me when regarding all of these rules and regulations, and we will be able to get that answer for you. I'm just
Yeah.
not necessarily the person to have that answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess like if you got a property in your IRA, it's a rental property. So you gotta get, that's the first thing is you gotta find a bank that's willing to do HELOCs to rentals. And you might be better you might be better off doing like what they call debt service coverage ratio loan that refinances the whole thing,
Yeah.
um, or just some other kind of loan. But yeah, HELOCs are a little trickier when it's not your personal.
Awesome. Well, those are all of the questions that I see that have come in. So, last call for questions. But Rob, if you could just share, if you could pull up your screen again with all of your contact information, I want to make sure that people can get it, as well as your free guide. If people didn't get the chance to get that before I overtook the screen.
Yeah.
Um, so great. Yeah. And if you could just let them know where to find you, how to contact you.
Yeah, yeah. So again, you can hit me on my cell phone. I'm like always on the phone. And we can email is not the best. I do miss a lot of email. So better off to text or call me. And yeah, you can scan this here to take the course. It doesn't even collect your contact information. It's really just the information is there for you for free. And it runs through this a little bit more systematically and just with 5-minute videos, 10 5-minute videos that just run through this. So anyway, and you can share that with a friend, share that with a child, with, somebody you care about that you want this to help. Doing a live and flip changed my life and set me on the path to, become an accredited investor. And um, I'm just super passionate about that. So I'm just trying to get the information out there to more people, and I get paid when I execute here in the Philly burbs. So that's why I do this. I have a real estate team, and we get commissions when we sell houses. So it's always good. It's very simple. If we help you succeed, we get paid. And if we don't, we don't.